So today I would want to throw more light on what the athlete should consider and factors you should look out for, standards you should set for yourself when considering a program here in the United States. Now, when I mean a program, I am talking about colleges, universities. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Star Mpama. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you. Please do well to subscribe, like, and share. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for the support. So today I will just dive right into the agenda of the day. From my subsequent videos, I have been talking about standards and benchmarks and how these standards varies in different divisions and regions and conferences. There are a lot of things we fail to understand and put into consideration when we're trying to make our selections. Now, as a student athlete who is seeking for international scholarship here in the United States, you should be considering your academic grade. 2, you should be considering your age. 3, you should consider the height you have ascertained as an athlete, how fast you are, what are your personal bests. These things should be looked into. 4, you want to consider the kind of person you are. Are you somebody who can work under pressure? Are you someone who wants to be in a place where he or she would be tops? Or you can come into a place where you're going to be in the background and work yourself to the top. All these things are factors international students do not look at when coaches come down to their DMs. Now, talking about age, a lot of persons have been asking me, can you come over to the United States through athletic scholarship, come in for masters through athletic scholarship? Yes, you can. But when you're coming in for masters, we both know that at that point in time, you would not bear same age as an athlete who is coming in for a degree. So I do not expect that you should be looking out for an NCAA Division 1 school. At this time, you should be considering a D2 university or an NAIA, because in the Division 1, having to get an NCAA eligibility, there are a lot of things that are being looked out for. They look out for your age, they look out for your gap year. Now, when I'm talking about the gap year, I'm talking about there are some persons who, when they leave high school, they do not immediately get into the university. Some persons stay 2 years out, 3 years out. That might be a challenge for you when you want to come into the NCAA Division 1. Sometimes you might get in but not get the 4 years or 5 years eligibility that is expected of you to get. Sometimes you might just have 2 years eligibility, you might just get 3 years eligibility. Sometimes you might get 3 years eligibility and your indoors will be skipped out, you just run just the outdoors. Now, because the NCAAs will be wondering, so as an high school student, while you were in high school and you graduated, what were you doing the times you sat out? Were you a national athlete? Were you representing your country? Or were you just sitting out there training to make up the standards to come over to the United States and all of that? And all of these things, when they do not have a proper information or proper reason why you were out of school at that point in time, it gives you slim chances of getting that 4 or 5 years or even 6 years eligibility from the NCAAs. Now, back to those who want to come in for masters. So knowing that you would be within the age range of 25, 26, 27, you shouldn't be looking out for a D1 because there's an age range. So for someone looking out for masters, you should be looking into a D2 school or an NAIA school, because a D2, the window is much more opened compared to the NCAA's Division 1. Now, for an athlete who is pretty young and not completely exposed, and also who probably academically you're on the average level or you're just there. Personally, I would advise you try out going to an NGCAA school, because going to a junior college, you can go to a junior college school for 1 year and transfer to the university after 1 year. Now, what would you be doing in that 1 year? You help yourself understand how the United States system works academically and athletically. You understand the pressure that comes with being a student athlete. You don't want to get here in the United States and you're not being able to cope with your academics and your sport at the same time. You don't want to get here and find yourself breaking down because one thing or the other is happening to you and you just cannot take it all at once. So, if you're someone who do not adapt to pressure and you're pretty young, personally speaking, I would advise you just go to an NGCA school, or better still, if you're going into a D1 school, let it be a school that wouldn't put you under so much pressure. A place where you can grow, get better, and you can decide to transfer to any of the Power 5 schools. That is, if your times get better and you meet up to these standard Power 5 schools would be looking out for. Now, if you're an athlete who has gone versatile, an athlete who has represented his or her country, an athlete who has good grades, an athlete who can handle pressure, then I expect you to be in the D1 Power 5s, the D1 top dogs, because there you need the push. You need a place where you can compete to push yourself to be better. But at the same time, when we are heading to schools like this, we should not forget that we are student athletes, not athlete students. Now, what do I mean by that? Most athletes tend to forget the fact that coming into the United States, you are also a student. Some persons just focus on the athletic part of life and they forget their academics, and they fail to understand that after sports there is life. And aside from that, when you do not pass your classes and you do not meet up with a certain CGPA, you would not be allowed to compete. And you know what that means. When you cannot compete, you are at the verge of losing your scholarship, which means your academics is as important as your track performances. You have to perform well in class to enable you run well, or better still, to enable you go out there for competitions. Now, if you're an athlete who is academically sound, but you are on an average level when it comes to track and field, and you are exposed, there are two things involved. You can actually get into these schools, a D1 school, with an athletic and an academic scholarship, which is you can get a 30, 40, or even 50% of academic scholarship and a 70 or even 50% of an athletic scholarship. Both merged together gives you a full scholarship, and that way you just keep up with your academics as usual and also keep up with your track. Now, the better you get, the higher your scholarship. Now, coming down to people who have really low marks when it comes to their individual sports, now you could consider the NAIAs. In the NAIAs, it's not like they take in those athletes who are not, really there yet. They also take in top athletes. But one thing about the NAIAs is that there are a lot of things they put into consideration, and this is what you want to look out for. You want to be sure that whatever it is you're doing at that point in time, you are in a place that you wouldn't get pressured to put you in a position where you get worse, but rather this pressure would make you better. So if you're an athlete who is running a 47.0 and a 47.0 cannot get you into a D1, probably cannot get you into a D2, you can consider a junior college or an NAIA. But even now in the junior colleges, the last nationals, it was won with 46. You now ask yourself, if I am a 47 runner and there are 46 athletes over here in the United States, how do you think these coaches will recruit me? So if you try in for junior colleges and it's not working, you try in for NCAs, D1 and D2, it's not working, you try out the NAIAs. Or better still, there are still schools in the D1 that do not really consider top times. And that is why I said you should always check out for the school record when looking out for schools to reach out to. Then another mistake most athletes make is stipends and scholarship fees. Now, you can have a friend who is going to a school that would give you a scholarship worth $23,000 for a year. And maybe that friend is doing really well, has represented his or her country. And you, who is just coming up, you've not gone anywhere. You still want to go to that same school. How do you think that is going to work? It wouldn't. And you don't want to come to the United States on half scholarship. It's really not funny, believe you me. So you would want to look out for a place that you would fit in with what you have. These are the things that we as athletes do not put into consideration. Everybody wants to go to where everybody is going to, but we fail to understand that where everybody is going to cannot accommodate everybody. So we need to check ourselves, check our standards, check our abilities, check our academic level, athletic level, check our strengths, and tell ourselves the truth. That way, you give yourself a higher opportunity. And I would advise that as an athlete, make sure that on your social media page, you have your events stated out clearly, you have your videos out there, and so that these coaches can see you. On my next video, I am going to talk about how athletes are to reach out to coaches, how athletes can access these schools personally or through different agencies, and how to also respond to these coaches when they reach out to you. So until then, be good, stay safe, and bye for now.